Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is Proverbs 137. The proverb today is, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." Okay, let's take a look at the note here. The meaning of this proverb is literal. In order for a family, a society, or a country to succeed, it must stay united and not let petty, small quarrels or arguments bring them down. It is also used in reference to traitors as well, because if you have traitors within your country, that's another way they could bring you down. So you have to stay united, you have to stay, together, at least fighting for the same goal or the same purpose. Okay, let's continue. The origin of this proverb comes directly from the New Testament of the Bible. It is mentioned in Mark 3:25, Luke 11:17, and Matthew 12:25. Remember, there were four of the apostles wrote stories about Jesus, about their experiences with Jesus, and so the four were Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But these three actually mentioned this. Paraphrasing pretty much what Jesus said, and he said pretty much the same sort of idea. All right. All right. This proverb is also connected to the phrase "United we stand, divided we fall," and that's very big in U.S. and U.S. history. We say "united we." So we often use it like nowadays, in case we ever had to fight against another country or something like that. But it goes all the way back to the founding fathers. This was a very important principle. Okay. We can also say origins of this can also be found in Aesop's fables, the four oxen and the lion, and the bundle of sticks. So Aesop didn't actually say house divided, but he did stress the idea that united you stand, divided you fall. In the four oxen and the lion, these oxen, of course, because they worked together, they all had their horns out and they all stood together like in a circle. They were able to keep the lion away because it was hard for him to attack without, being near one of the oxen's horns. But then the oxen, of course, started to argue and they had quarrels. And then later on, the lion was able to pick them off one by one. So that also brings up this idea. The second one, the bundle of sticks. Oh, this is a father who has sons, and he has, I guess, like a kingdom or something, and he was worried about quarrels of his sons fighting that, they may their fights may lose everything. So, and he tried to teach him this sort of a moral by showing them, if you take one stick and you just snap it, you could break it very easily. But if you put like 4 or 5 sticks together and you try to break it, it's very, very difficult. It is much stronger. So he's also stressing that moral, united we stand, divided we fall. We're much stronger together if we could be together. All right. But let's go back to this part, though. Even the founding fathers promoted and understood this principle. This dates back to John Dixon's pre-revolutionary The Liberty Song. Yeah, the founding fathers knew they were standing up against England, which was the most powerful country in the world. And you couldn't really physically defeat England. But the founding fathers knew how they worked. They knew that if they could separate them, they would probably lose. Only if all the founding fathers stood together, if there weren't any traitors or anyone that went against it, they would be much stronger. So that was the idea. Also, united we stand, divided we fall. And remember, a lot of the founding fathers too were also, a lot of them were very religious. They took a lot of ideas from the Bible and other places as well, and many other previous governments. All right, and we also see it in American history, even at Lincoln's time. Abraham Lincoln gave a speech centered on the house divided analogy. In regard to a universal decision about slavery as well. Because remember, half the country was against slavery and the other half, still had slaves at that time. And he was saying, point where, if you still continue to stay arguing about this point, it will break up the country. That was the idea. So that sort of analogy. So this proverb goes very much to it. A house divided against itself cannot stand. which leads directly to united we stand, divided we fall, which, by the way, is even on a lot of American money. We have that phrase, united we stand, divided we fall. Okay, anyway, I hope you got it. I hope it's clear. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.